Hello all, welcome to lesson 20 of the Queen versus Rook Endgame. This time we are going to continue our analysis of the harassment defense that arrives from the fourth rank defense. This time we are going to talk about the Rook Beast defense. Last lesson we talked about the King Beast defense, so we can go a bit more ahead. And here we saw how to deal when the king moves away, but now we got the hardest defense. It's when the rook goes to the other harassment diagonal, and this is really hard. That's why I call it the beast, and that's why we have the tag about the hardest defense. So here white starts immediately to be forced to discover the best technique, because when we covered before the harassment defense, when the rook was in the third rank defense and came to this position, our king was here and black king was there. The problem is the technique is to go. This is the technique we used in the harassment defense and that we can't use now. And I will try to explain why. Because the proper technique is to attack the rook, then we should be expecting the rook to go to the other side, but no. When the rook comes in an harassment defense from the third defense, there's this new resource that makes it really hard to break. So black can give a check, and then because this file was not available if we were playing from a third rank defense, now it is available, and so the rook goes here, and this is really hard. It's like everything is scrambled, and it's very difficult now for white to go after the black. In fact, this is very close to reaching the 50 move rules, so not a thing we want to be playing in. So when we are here, we need to remember that if the harassment came from the fourth rank, it's harder and the technique is different. And the proper move that we should remember from now on is to give a check first. Uh, we give a check, and now a new situation arises. First, we are saying that if the king goes down, we will have a forking over here, so the king can't goes down. So basically, the king has three possibilities. The stronger one that we will cover in this video is this one. Then there's another tricky one if the king goes up that we will cover in a future lesson that will be called harassment rook beast 2. And if the king goes here, well, this is easier because we simply play this. This is the king beast, the harassment king beast that we saw in previous lessons. If you want to remember the situation, let's come back to the beginning. And you must remember that when the king goes here, this is exactly the same situation. And this was the king beast defense where we went like more or less like this and so on, and then it goes on. So coming back to the start, we have this position, we give a check, and if the king goes there, we can transpose this to something that we already know. But let's now cover the main subject of this video, the king move to b5. So now another difficult move. That's why this is so hard. We need to find not so natural moves and keep playing them well, because otherwise we may run into a lot of more moves and be caught in the 50 move rules. So the other continuation, and these are the maneuver we need to remember, is to play the queen to the control of the harassment checking squares. And now it's black to move. Black to move only two pieces, rook moves, king moves. Let's start with the easiest ones, the rook king moves. Uh, the rook can only go to three possible squares. Any other square, it will be an easy catch. For example, if it comes here, I have a simpler check and fork. If it comes to this task square, well, I can grab it, giving a check and then grabbing the rook. So coming here, we just give a check and then we maneuver to get over in the diagonal, in the forking diagonal. So basically the rook only has the option to stay in the same file. The light square also not possible because another fork will be in the menu. So basically 3 options. Of course, the most difficult one is to go to the other harassment diagonal, and we will cover it in a while. Let's first move on with the simpler ones. If the rook moves to h4, because we are controlling the checking square, our move will be to approach the king. And now we are almost playing in a distant defense, so the rook is in trouble. That's why the best move is to come close to the king. But now you must see that we are going to face a familiar situation, because if the king goes here, we are in a wishbone position. This one is the problematic wishbone, so we check the king from the other side, then we approach our king. Best move for black in this situation needs to go away, then we check, the king moves, and we are playing the problematic wishbone position. So this is one of the possible moves. The other move is to move away. This is a second rank defense, so we move the king. If the rook moves, we approach, and then we do it again. And now we are playing the second rank defense. Normally it comes here, we are already controlling the checking square. No, sorry, I can improve over here, of course. Here we can approach our king, and then it's simply to get the rook. This is the distant defense that we already know. So let's go back a bit. So when the rook goes to h4, we simply approach the king. The best move is to come with the rook, and then we are going to play either a wishbone or a second rank defense. We already know how to deal with that. The other possible move is to go to h6, and here the same situation as we are covering already the checking square. We approach the king. Best move for the rook is also to come to a close defense, and now this is a similar position. You always need to be paying attention to discover what kind of pattern we are searching for, and move it here, because this transforms the position into a U-techno dance. Now, best move is to go and we start the dance. Okay, this is pretty fun, and we will place black in this position. Now black is forced to play. Okay, we need to keep doing the things we are ready. We are intending to cover the checking square. The king comes back, but now it's not possible to avoid out this one, and now when the king moves, we have a fork. So coming back to the start, we already saw that these moves don't help the cause of black getting an hard defense. Against the best defense, this is the move. We need to find the third hard move in the row. That's why this is the hardest defense. And as I told you before, if we are not precise, we risk to get into the 50 move rule and get a draw in a one position. So now the move is not so intuitive, but there is one simple feature that I suggest you to remember, that the move is this because we want to open as much as we can the forking diagonal to the rook. And the rook is to be careful now, because if it goes in a random way, it can be caught. Because, for example, if it comes here, it's a direct catch, but if it comes here, there will be a fork. So if it comes here, I will grab it after the king moves, and so on. So the rook basically has two moves, more or less. We can see a bit more, but basically let's start immediately by this one. If it comes here, we just transpose to the position we saw when we moved the rook directly to h6. The same goes if the rook goes to h4, the same thing. We move the king, and this is a transposition for the position we already saw. So basically, two moves. The first one and stronger one is to go to the short harassment, but let's first see another possibility. If the rook checks the king by above, we simply attack the rook. Now, the rook is on target, and it's impossible to find a safe position. The best square probably is this one, but then we check the king, and there's no way the rook is going to escape, because either in any of these situations we will have a fork. So basically here the proper technique for the defense is to go into the short harassment. Now again, we need to know how to break the short harassment. This is not so hard, because normally we go to control the checking squares as on the big harassment, the normal harassment, and the short harassment. So the rook needs to move again. Basically, if it goes to g5, then we keep approaching the king, and now we are very close to a distant defense. If, for example, the king moves here, then we are going to keep it targeting the diagonals. So the king moves again, check, and now check, and we are covering the distant defense approach. Now it moves here, and we simply approach our king, and it will be a easy win for white. So let's move back a bit. So the rook goes to the short harassment, we attack the rook, and the best move for black is to go to b8. We give a check, the king moves, we approach our king, and now there's no way for the rook to escape. If it goes here, I like this technique a lot. I give a check, the king moves, and now, surprise of surprise, I attack the rook, because there's no way the rook to find a safe spot. Let's say, for example, if it goes again away, we will always search for the forking diagonal, so it will be an easy fork. And if it tries to, let's say, for example, if it comes down, let's say, for example, here, we simply are going to target again the forking diagonal. We will simply try to approach our queen. Let's say, for example, if the king comes here, then we are going here. Let's see that the king now has no solution than to drop soon into a forking diagonal. Okay, so this is the way to do it. I will review it a bit. So from here we give a check, the king moves to the position we are analyzing in this video. Then we move to f3, and now the rook moves to the best position, that it's on the other harassment diagonal. Third move in a row, we approach the king up, so to open the forking diagonal. The rook goes into the short harassment. We break the harassment, moving the queen to control the checking squares. The rook needs to find a safe spot. This is the best one, but with a check and approaching the king, there's no solution for the rook. The rook normally goes again to the short harassment, but now we have a beautiful technique that we give a check, and then we attack the rook, and the rook has no more squares to be safe, and we will grab the rook and win the game. So, but basically, this comes from knowing how to play the technique low. So, again, we have covered the rook moves. Now let's see about the king moves. First, the king can't go here because we will have an harassment. We will have a fork over here. So basically, the king has 1, 2, 3, 4 spots, and we will check them all. The hardest one is to approach the king back to the center. Sorry. Okay, this one. Back to the center. Now, the technique is, I'll give a check. the best for the king is to go up again, because otherwise, if the king approaches, this is simple, a transposition for the previous positions, but giving another move for white. So the best defense here is to go up. And now that's why I like this video a lot, because it's full of hidden gems that we need to know. The technique is to bring the king to control the big diagonals that lead to the rook. So I remove the king from an harassment defense. And now the king moves, and then I'll move the king again. Why? Because here the rook is lost. So any move the rook can go, I will grab it. There are two possible moves for the rook, two more or less harder to break moves. Let's see the first one. Here we give a check, the king moves. We are trying to reach always the squares that lead to a fork. The king moves, so I give another check. The king tries to stay away, but now I'm reaching the forking diagonal. The king moves, another check. Wherever the king goes, I will be eventually entering a forking diagonal. So I'm grabbing the rook. So coming back a bit, this is one of the possible continuations for black, one of the hardest ones. The other harder one is this one, because there's no intuitive move here. You need to remember that first you need to attack the rook. So you attack the rook, forcing the rook to move again. There is no good square for the rook. That's why this is a good move. The rook tries to check, but now we approach our king. The rook moves again, and now it's a simple question of technique, because we already have the forking diagonal. We are always eyeing the rook with the forking diagonal, because the rook is in an open space, far away from the king, and our aim is not to allow the rook to approach the king. So now we give a check. The only way to the king to delay this is to go to this side. I give another check, and then I will have a fork in d6. So coming back a bit, because this is hard stuff. So when the king moves again to the center, I check it. The king normally needs to go up. Then I bring the king away from the forking diagonal, and I will keep bringing away. Because, for example, if the rook tries to check me, okay, this is more or less the same situation. The king moves away. This is a transposition for something we already saw. And if the rook, for example, tries to go into a big harassment, there's simply a check. And as you can see, there is a forking diagonal that I will reach with more or less time. So we approach the king, and now the rook is in an open space again. Again, we have here another threat, and the thing is, we just need to keep approaching and for example, here we take the rook. So let's see more possibilities for the king. This one was covered. Let's see again. If now the king moves away, okay, we have a problem here, because the king is in the same row as our king. So this is not a very interesting square to allow, because if the king moves, there will be a check over here. So the proper move is to move the queen as if the king has came back to the center. So we are controlling the next checking squares. So we are threatening to approach our king. That's why if the rook check us, we simply use that, and we are now in a decent defense to break easier. And so probably the best solution for black is to go again into the harassment diagonal. There is a diagonal over here. But now we can keep approaching the king. We are now controlling the checking square, so the rook may think checking on the other side. Of course, it can go to the short harassment. And if it goes to the short harassment, we don't need to approach our queen because we have this simple, interesting move that it's attacking the rook and the rook is dominated again. Uh, we just need to remember that when the rook is very far away from the king without the chance of coming to a close defense, maybe we can dominate it. And that's what we are doing here. So the rook moves, but now check and simply fork. So what other possibilities we have after moving the queen to e3 from black? Well, let's just come back with the king. This is the same transpositional position where we have one move plus, and so we open again the forking diagonal, and black can't escape because there's no solution. We have seen this before. I'm not going to uh, use much time here. So let's go back and see what happened now if the king goes up. Okay, if you look here, and if you remember from the beginning of the video, this is the exact same harassment king beast situation. So if we don't want to improve on the technique, we simply play here and we are transposing to the harassment king beast video. So 3 and just 1 to go. The last one is if the king moves in the diagonal. Now it's a different situation because we can approach the king in a more interesting situation. So this happens, we try to approach our king. Of course, what happens is because we are controlling more squares now, if the rook gives us a check, we move away from the file, but now there's no safe spot for the rook because there are no diagonal where it can use an harassment diagonal it can use, and it can come close to the king. Let's see just one example. If it goes here, I give a check, and whatever the king moves, if it goes any side, I will have a forking over here and it's game over. So this basically covers all the possibilities from the first part of the King Beast. I consider this the hardest defense to break because first we need to remember that we can't go with the same technique against the harassment defense that comes from the third rank. So we really need to be aware of giving the check. Then the king moves to the best defense. Another move to find not easy is to play queen f3, controlling the checking squares from the harassment. The best defense for black is to move the rook to another harassment. We already saw all the possibilities the king has also to break. There are also two moves that I consider easier to remember from the rook, but we need to review all of the king moves and the harassment diagonal move, that it's the main one. Here, the third in a row, the third move in a row, not natural, is to approach. It's to move away the king from the forking diagonal. Of course, black will try to resist keeping in an harassment diagonal, but we will break it again. The rook moves, we give a check, approach our king, and now this beautiful technique to end the game. Of course, there are other techniques, but I really love this one. And the more techniques we see, the more solutions we will find in a known position. So we give a check, the king moves, I'll attack the rook. The rook has no solution. Whatever the square it goes, if it goes, for example, to another square, I will find a way to enter the forking diagonal and win the rook. So I hope you enjoyed the video. This is not an easy one. I will bring the second part, that will be when the king moves away up. Not so hard defense like this one, but again, a defense that needs to be covered because the technique is not the same, and so makes it harder for the attacking side. For the defensive side, well, this is the beautiful part. If you study this well, you are going to trick your opponent many times, and this is probably where the real extra half point comes. Okay, I really like you to invest on this video because it will pay off. So I see you in the next lessons. Hope you have enjoyed. Keep studying this ending and see you again in the next lesson.